He is taking a closer look at one of our top stories, Turkey's municipal elections. Istanbul alone is a huge prize for the opposition due to its massive weight in the overall Turkish economy, Brian.
So, Stuart, Ankara may be the seat of Turkish government, but Istanbul definitely its financial capital. In 2023, Istanbul had a total economic output of around 130 billion euros. That is 30% of Turkey's overall GDP. The city accounts for 38% of Turkey's industrial production. 40% of all taxes are collected there. The city has 30% of the country's commercial enterprises. And with 16 million people, Istanbul has a higher population than 20 out of the EU's 27 nations, all governed by just one mayor. That mayor has a big say in major sectors of the Turkish economy, from trade to finance and tourism. The city government alone has a $16 billion annual budget and 40,000 employees. That is the kind of municipal economic power that many voters did not want Erdogan's AK party to control. Take a lesson here.
The economy is at rock bottom. A government that can't even give retirees a 5,000 lira raise will try to get out of the economic deadlock by using Istanbul. They will sell it. It's a very significant source of power for the government. Istanbul is the most important thing for them.
Indeed, President Erdogan has been seeking to restore economic confidence with a shift to more mainstream policies as the country faces persistent high inflation.
So, Stuart, Turkey's been battling an inflation crisis since 2021, driven in part, in fact, by Erdogan's own highly unorthodox economic views. Contrary to nearly all mainstream economic theory, the president insists that the way to fight inflation is by lowering interest rates. Inflation peaked at around 85% in October of 2022, following Erdogan's re-election last June, with inflation still hovering at around 40%. He changed course, appointing a former Merrill Lynch economist as finance minister and a Goldman Sachs veteran as central bank governor. They promptly doubled benchmark interest rates from 8.5% up to 15%. Those interest rates have now been hiked up to a massive 45% as of January, and yet the official inflation rate has still crept back up to 67%. The lira, as we see here, has lost 40% of its value against the dollar in the past year and nearly 83% over the past 5 years. Erdogan doubled the country's minimum wage in January. Many feel that that has just further fed inflation.
The official inflation rates are not the reality. We all know there's a huge difference between the inflation announced by Turkstat and the inflation that the public sees in the market, on the street, in the shopping centre. Unfortunately, it does not represent the truth.
Well, let's check in now then on the day's trading action, Brian.
Here in Europe, Stuart, most major exchanges are closed for the Easter holiday. Over in Asia, though, Chinese indexes gained ground on Monday as new data shows the country's manufacturing sector expanded during March at its fastest rate in more than a year. Hong Kong up nearly a full percent. The Nikkei in Tokyo pulling back after some big gains in recent weeks amid falling optimism at major manufacturers. That drop in business confidence comes after the Bank of Japan ended its long-running policy of negative interest rates last month, seeking in part to boost the value of the yen.
Finally for business, Germany has legalised recreational cannabis. While pot smokers are celebrating, the government may be missing out on some serious tax revenues.
Indeed, Stuart. One of the top motivations for the legalization of cannabis in countries like the US and Canada, for authorities at least, has been the potential to tax it. Canada, for example, collects $1.5 billion per year in excise taxes on marijuana. But while Germany is ending legal punishment for personal use, EU laws prevent it from cashing in, as Tom Canetti reports.
Cannabis is no longer illegal in Germany. Long-awaited news for the country's 4.5 million consumers. German residents over 18 can now possess up to 25 grams in public and grow up to 3 plants per household. The health minister says the policy aims to curb the black market, which is estimated to generate 4 billion euros per year and 400 tonnes of cannabis.
The black market is getting bigger and bigger. The number of drug-related deaths has doubled in the last 10 years. It couldn't go on like this. I was against cannabis legalization for years myself, but the studies show that we need a new offer here.
Germany initially planned to legalise the sale of cannabis, but shifted to decriminalisation of personal use as not to breach European laws, which means a massive untapped economic potential from state revenue.
Personally, I think we could have gone a lot further, but it's clear that I'm first and foremost satisfied with what we've achieved. It means an end to the criminalization of several million people in Germany who have been senselessly discriminated against for decades.
A 2021 study estimated legalisation could generate $5.3 billion in taxes and create 27,000 jobs. Germany plans to run a pilot program where it will test the legalisation of cannabis sales in some cities, assessing public health impacts, which could be used to influence EU laws.
So I'll have to wait for some progress at the European level to see those tax revenues start flowing in for Germany and perhaps other nations as well.
We shall see, Brian. Thank you very much, Brian.